Welcome, Brian.
Welcome. Thanks for having me, Louis.
I know we've met and chatted once before, but I feel we have a commonality in our portal experiences and whatnot.
Yes.
We'll leave that for the past, but there is that. And I really want to learn about Bleacher Report. I have spent a fair amount of time on it. Bleacher Report, I guess, began a little bit before I started True Slant.
Early 08.
We got our funding in early 08. But,
so right around the same time.
Around the same time. And I watched it with great envy as it was launching. So why don't you tell us a bit about what Bleacher Report is?
Yeah, I mean, think of us as the largest publisher of original content in the sports category. Really focused on building a great, comprehensive content experience for fans of teams and topics, which there are hundreds, if not thousands, of teams and topics that people are interested in. And it's mostly powered by 7,000 plus contributors who are experts, authorities, and most importantly, really passionate about those teams and topics. And that's who drives the content and creates the content.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Largest publisher of original content. We have a contributor model at Forbes. I'm assuming you have a kind of contributor model.
We do.
So tell me a little bit more about how that model works.
Yeah, you have to apply to get onto Bleacher Report. So I think one of the misnomers is that anybody can show up and anybody can start writing. You have to actually apply, submit a writing sample, provide some other information about your background, your interests, where you have expertise. And like I said, that number's over 7,000 contributors today, and it fans out across hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of teams and topics that people are interested in. And we pay a lot of attention to what content people are looking for from various signals, whether it's search, whether it's social, whether it's our own site, whether it's our newsletter platform, where we have a lot of insights around how people consume content and how that changes throughout a season. Storylines change, right? If your team starts 3-0, there's going to be different storylines that fans are going to be interested in than if they start 0-3. So we really try and pay attention to that and make that information available to many of our contributors to help them inform how they might want to publish content and speak to that demand.
How do you vet 7,000 potential contributors?
Well, we haven't done it all in the last month, so it's been a nice climb. There was a time where there were many more contributors than that before the application process got put in place. And over time, we've had people everybody goes through the application process, and we have people that review the applications, and we're getting well over 1,000 on a monthly basis. But we don't accept all of them. We accept less than a quarter of them.
Is there a payment model for some of these folks?
We have a small percentage of contributors. It's about 1% that do get compensated, and it's really based on them demonstrating an ability to be an authority, to be an expert, to kind of work up through our system and demonstrate that they're really knowledgeable about the Pittsburgh Steelers or the San Francisco 49ers, and that they're committed to really publishing on a consistent in a consistent way.
So you make those judgments. It's not based on page views or traffic.
No, we have an editorial layer like many traditional publishers do that sits between kind of our demand and insights of what people are looking for, and then this contributor base. And we try and take those insights and go out to the contributors, and there's an editor for the NFL, for college football, et cetera, who can then interface with several hundred of the writers and give them some guidance on here's the kind of content that you should maybe think about producing and publishing. And it's that mix of original content plus curation that we think is pretty compelling, because now Bleacher Report becomes a one-stop shop.
So at Forbes, we are using WordPress as a original content publishing platform.
Sure.
How are you doing that?
So Bleacher Report has been built up kind of from the ground up. So as the guys built the business from the earliest days, it was all built in-house.
So it's a proprietary.
It's a proprietary platform, publishing platform. We really think of ourselves as a publishing platform that's very scalable. It's not a trivial exercise to manage 7,000 plus contributors that are publishing day in and day out. But what we've also done is focused on what's the right feature set, right? Blogging platforms are great, and they tend to have a lot of different features. We've tried to hone in on what are the features that really matter for our writers, for our contributors, and then what are the features that matter to give us really good insights and analytics that help those writers get more efficient, and then ultimately what's the right set of features that create a really good user experience and reader experience.
Do your contributors have a dashboard where they see how they're doing?
Well, they have a profile on the site, and they see all of their content. They see how many reads each of their pieces of content has received. We've also got kind of, what we would consider a status system or a gamification layer where, they can earn badges and they can kind of level their way up as they produce content that gets certain number of reads or shows up on certain parts of the site, or maybe is used and qualifies to be part of our distribution deals with folks like Hearst and Tribune and Philly.com. So there's a lot of different ways where they can kind of, move up the status system and see how they're leveling up.
Who are you disrupting in all this?
Who are we disrupting? Well, we like to think we're augmenting a lot of people. So, ESPN is a phenomenal experience, but they're never going to cover everything, and they may not go super deep in a lot of teams below the marquee national teams. So we think we're really complementing the experience that we know people are still going to go to ESPN, but to have a really robust experience, particularly around the teams that they care about or the topics that they want to go super deep around, we're a really good complement to that, and another read, and kind of the second read, so to speak, for somebody like ESPN.
So you went to Bleacher Report straight from Yahoo?
I went Yahoo, Fox.
Okay.
I took a little sojourn in the venture world, and then Bleacher Report.
Okay, so I went from a portal to a startup. There are exhilarating things about that,
yep,
and there are frustrating things about that.
Yeah.
Talk to me about a frustration.
Yeah, listen, every platform, every venue is hard, right? I think for me, what's been exhilarating in the learning is that it changes every day. I mean, digital publishing is different every day. The notion of having a PowerPoint deck that lays out our 5-year plan is a bit laughable, right? I mean, we're working off of Google Docs and trying to have visibility into the next 30 days, maybe the next 90 days, because it just changes. And so you have to really be comfortable with pivoting and kind of turning and changing the dials and optimizing. And on the tech side, having a team, both product and engineering and design, that's got a test and learn mindset, right? We don't have to get it completely right, don't have to get it completely baked, but let's make sure we're learning as we're iterating and testing, and then we know where to go deep and really nail it.
Where is it going with video? Because I know sports video is a rights business, it's expensive, but sports enthusiasts consume a lot of video.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that?
Yeah, it's funny, at Fox, we didn't have as much highlight right video as one might imagine. The leagues have tended historically to kind of hang on to the highlights video and use it more on their digital platforms. So we had to get creative, and we had to think about the notion that, there's 160 hours in a week. If you shave off the 50 or so that you're sleeping and a little bit more that you're watching your team play live, there's 100 hours where you're awake and your team's not playing. And you want to know, what happened and why, what's going to happen and why, what's this storyline about, what are we doing with the coach, who's the recruit that we're looking at. And so I think in the context of video, as it maps to our model and contributors, I think of it, and we think of it, as just another format that ultimately our contributors can start to create content. Instead of writing a story when they get up, they might do a video of themselves talking about the 5 reasons they think the Giants are going to defend in the NL West or something like that.
Can they do that now?
We're starting to enable that. So we started to do that right before the NFL draft. We have a studio in our office and have the capabilities of producing video, editing, doing the post-production, the whole workflow that you need to be able to create video. Because we did, it's not like I'm shocking anybody by saying we think video is going to be a kind of big deal on the internet.
Big mistake you've made since you've been there?
Oh, that's a tough question.
A mistake you've made since you've been there? Or misperception, or something that didn't work out?
Oh, misperception for sure. The whole thing about quality, right? And the fact that I think there's a perception that Bleacher Report today is the Bleacher Report that people might have first experienced in mid 2008, 2009, when there was no application process. All the content wasn't being edited before it gets published as it is today.
It's hard to change those.
It's hard to change that perception, but the place where the perception is very positive, which is the one we care the most about, is at the user level and the reader level, and the way that we see the audience grow and the engagement grow. That to us is the most objective measure of quality.
Who do you watch?
Who do I watch? Well, most recently, there's probably 3 threads, 2 that are kind of in the same camp. I've just been excited, and I'm watching the whole Pandora and LinkedIn. I just think it's great when digital companies that have been built from the ground up through new models can create public companies, and really big, meaningful public companies. And
is that your goal, to be a public company?
It's certainly a path that we want to focus on, and certainly an option. And yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we think we can build a really meaningful, important business around digital publishing based on our model. And then the third guy I'm watching is, and I'm pretty intrigued, and the velocity's been pretty interesting around Google+. Not so much because, you know, I'm not losing any sleep, and I'm sure Facebook's not losing any sleep, but it's just interesting to see some innovation come into, you know, social. The Facebook
but that's
guys,
all good for us.
That's what I'm saying. The Facebook guys are, you know, super smart, and they're going to keep innovating. So it's just going to keep making social more and more relevant, and then, you know, then the onus comes back on, you know, publishers to figure out how do we make it really relevant for our audiences, and in our case, for, you know, a large number of contributors, right, who want to who think about social in a different way.